meeting. I will now call the meeting back to order after a brief recess. So we are going to be discussing a presentation from Concord Properties Limited to discuss a special permit use being proposed on 6 lots in the Kelly Heights Phase 3 subdivision. Proposal for a special permit use to allow for semi-detached dwellings on PIDs 882-084 and 897-124. An application has been received from Concord Properties to allow for that type of special permit use. For clarity, a stacked semi-detached dwelling is a 4-unit building whereby the units are arranged in a 2-wide, 2-high formation. Present here tonight are representatives from Concord Properties, as well as Sarah Kennedy from our planning staff, who has been working rather diligently on this file. So before I turn it over to Sarah for a brief overview, and before we get to the representatives from Concord Properties, I'd like to discuss very briefly meeting decorum and how this meeting will proceed this evening. So to keep this meeting moving in a smooth and orderly manner, the following practices and customs should be observed. Comments and presentations ought to focus on the nature of the merits or likely consequences of this proposed application and must avoid the personalities or motives of the applicant. Comments should be focused on the application on hand and not on prior applications or proposals. All comments and questions are made to the chair and myself, who will then decide who is responsible for answering those questions. There shall be no direct debate between members attending this meeting. Members attending this meeting should refrain from disturbing the assembly when presentations are being made or questions are being discussed. The presentations are limited to 5 minutes for individuals or 10 minutes for groups. And now a request for additional time may be made by myself and considered by myself. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Sarah Kennedy, seated to my right, of our planning staff, who's going to provide an overview of the application. And then we'll hear from, I'm sorry, Sarah, I didn't get your name.
Tyler Stewart.
Mr. Stewart from Concord Properties Limited. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Councilor McDonald. An application has been received from Concord Properties Limited to revise the 3rd phase of the Kelly Heights subdivision to include 6 stacked semi-detached dwellings on PID numbers 882-0804 and 897-124. A stacked semi-detached dwelling is a 4-unit building whereby the units are arranged in a 2-wide by 2-high formation. An image of that is shown on the screen. Within the medium density residential zone, stacked semi-detached dwellings are listed as special permit uses. A special permit use is defined as a use that may be problematic within a zone and whose intensity, impacts, or other characteristics require review to ensure that the development meets certain restrictive performance standards for the use at the designated location. Under Section 8.16.1 of the Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45, prior to the issuance of a development for a special permit use, Council shall ensure that a public meeting be held to allow residents to provide their input on the proposed development. When reviewing an application for a special permit use, Council considers whether the development is appropriate and complements the scale of the existing adjacent development, the development has significant buffer and/or separation from adjacent uses and properties, whether the proposed development will cause undue hardship to surrounding property owners due to excessive noise, traffic, congestion, hours of operation, or any other potential nuisance. Notification of this proposed special permit use development application occurred in the following manner. Letters were sent to adjacent landowners within 61 meters or 200 feet radius of the subject property. Notice was also posted on the town's Facebook page. I'll now hand the floor over to Tyler Stewart for a presentation.
Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. So as mentioned, we're working on the 3rd and final phase of our Kelly Heights subdivision.
Sorry, it's been a long time since I've used this.
Sorry. Again, quick introduction. My name is Tyler Stewart with the Gray Group, representing Concord Properties. Quick, high level, we're working on the 3rd and final phase of the Kelly Heights subdivision. and seeking the necessary approvals tonight with special permitted use and conditional use applications. As we went through the design of this subdivision, we've looked at it a number of different times and reworked it. What we really wanted to do here is build a versatile subdivision and keeping our options open for builders, aligning with the growth and density initiatives with the town as well. We wanted to stay true with the look and feel subdivision, and we felt that our application here holds true to that. And we've strategically looked at the lot layout to, as much as possible, have like properties abutting and a transition from single to semi-detached to multi-unit. We also did another calculation and kind of looked at density, and again to try to align with the initiatives of the town. In December, the bylaw was amended with Amendment N to allow for stacked dwellings. One of those uses is a stacked townhouse, and again, looking at and maintaining the look and feel of this subdivision, we felt that wasn't appropriate, but the stacked semi-detached dwelling we felt was appropriate and still maintained that look and feel for the subdivision. We did some calculations, and with the full build out of this subdivision, we're still at approximately 10 units per hectare. There was a study done looking at the different typologies, and low density is still considered between that 0 and 25 units per hectare. And breaking that down even more, that's about 0.2 of an acre per unit or per door. So we felt that was still an appropriate density for this subdivision. So first is the special use stacked semi-detached dwelling. As mentioned, there's 6 lots that we're proposing here, 3 of which are backing on green space. And when looking at the design of this subdivision in its infancy, we maintained the tree line here. So these 2 here are backing on that tree line. We're showing some examples of these stacked semi-detached dwellings. These are just for proof of concept. Ultimately, it's up to the builder and final design and approval with the town, but we just wanted to show what could be possible on these lots. And so the other application is for a conditional use, and that's just to increase the density of this multi-unit here, which was originally, we looked at a 3-unit. We'd like to increase that to a 4-unit, and we thought this was appropriate for this lot because we do have the frontage here, and with the minimum setback of 3 meters, even with this dwelling pushed close to the street, we still meet that minimum side setback. So as you push this dwelling back, you just have even more area and even more setback to work with. One example of this that already exists in Kelly Heights, again, just to show as proof of concept. And really, that's it. Is there any questions on the application?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Stewart. Yes, I will now open the floor for any questions for Mr. Stewart or employees of the town for any clarification or input that you'd like to have into this proposed special permit use within the identified zone. Okay, hearing or seeing nobody, moving up. I just have one question, if I
Sure.
might, Mr. Stewart.
Yep.
So, I serve in a number of, I guess, different roles here. I'm certainly chair planning, but I'm also a member of council. And so certainly it'll be upon council to make a decision on this as a special permit use. And if you noted from Sarah's materials, one of the things we have to consider when we're reviewing this application is whether the development is appropriate and complements the scale of the existing adjacent development. Now, I know in the abstract, we're somewhat familiar with Kelly Heights, as you know, it's phase 3, so I mean, it's not a brand new concern, but it's a relatively new subdivision within the town. And I'm wondering if you could just elaborate just a little bit on that. How does this proposed development, being these 6 special permit uses, stacked semi-detached dwellings, how is it appropriate, and how does it complement the scale of the existing adjacent neighborhood?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, again, going through this design, we looked at different scenarios where perhaps a stacked townhouse would work. And again, we kind of pulled back from that because we believe that it didn't maybe align with this subdivision. As we know, there was recently a stacked semi-detached approved in phase 2 and is currently under construction. We felt that, again, aligning with some initiatives of the town and looking at slightly increasing the density, this was probably the best way to do it, as it still maintains the footprint of a typical duplex. And so really, we didn't feel like this was a stretch or, you know, out of place for the subdivision, while again, still getting a little bit more density and aligning with that, those initiatives.
Okay, and just so I understand, so, you know, you presented some mock-ups of what a stacked semi-detached dwelling can look like, for
Right.
instance. So it's my understanding, and certainly feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that you're not, or your organization, I should say, is not looking to develop these
That's correct.
properties yourself.
Yeah, and the goal there is to just kind of unlock this for future lot owners and builders, and not saying that there has to be a stacked semi-detached dwelling built on these lots. It just enables that option, or opens that option for future lot owners.
Okay, thank you. I'll just check to see if we have any questions or comments coming in online. None? Okay, well, thank you very much. So what I do have here is 2 items of correspondence that were submitted, and so as part of our process, I will read those into the record. And they're addressed to Ms. Sarah Kennedy. And it reads, the first one is, Dear Ms. Kennedy, I'm writing in response to your letter dated February 14th, advising affected residents of the proposed special permit use. I want to respond in the strongest terms possible that I am absolutely opposed to the special permit use application on the grounds that this development will cause hardship to surrounding property owners due to excessive noise, parking, traffic congestion, hours of operation, many other potential nuisances, for example, unsightly properties or pollution. Construction of 4-unit stacked semi-detached dwellings should be restricted to urban core and core mixed use zones only in our town. As a lifelong resident of Stratford, it has been very disappointing to me to see the changing character of our town, which used to be made up of predominantly of comfortable, well-maintained single-family dwellings lived in by long-term residents, but is now more and more being filled up with higher density, lower-end dwellings predominantly lived in by transient, short-term residents. As a direct result of the above-described increase in development in our town in recent years, there have already been disappointing increases in overcrowding, noise, crime, unsafe parking, and traffic conditions, unsightly and poorly maintained properties, and pollution and litter garbage issues in our town. The application described in the letter that I received represents an intention to create more and more of the same type of the latter higher density, lower end dwellings, predominantly lived in by transient or short-term residents, which are inappropriate and unwelcome dwellings in these zones because they negatively affect the neighboring pre-existing long-term property owners and residents of the town. In summary, I am opposed to the application made in this letter, which I perceived as devaluing to the pre-existing neighboring R1 single-family dwellings, and which, in my experience, also will have a negative impact on the quality of life to those living in the pre-existing neighboring R1 single-family dwellings, including myself. Ideally, the lots mentioned in the letter should be left as is, lovely green space and a much-needed buffer zone between the pre-existing neighboring R1 single-family dwellings and the higher density lower-end dwellings. However, if Concord Properties Limited must proceed with any construction on these lots, then the existing plan and R1 zoning for these lots should be honored and remain unchanged. That is to say that, in consideration of the residents in the pre-existing neighboring R1 single-family dwellings, any construction on these lots should be R1 single-family and single-story dwellings, with well-maintained landscaping and privacy fencing on the perimeter wherever possible. I just note for the record, of course, that my reading into the record of this document is not an endorsement of these views, merely part of our process. The next item, correspondence, reads, "Good morning, Sarah. I received your letter informing property owners about the request to change the use in the next phase of Concord Properties Limited, Kelly Heights subdivision. This is a positive step to help make homes more affordable for Islanders. Please consider this email as my support for this change." Then, "Dear Sarah, thank you for your letter informing property owners about the request to change land use in the next phase of Concord Properties Limited, Kelly Heights subdivision. I believe this change is a positive step toward making homes more affordable, and I would like to express my support for it." So those are the items of correspondence. Ma'am, I see she came in late. I'd be remiss if I did not offer you the opportunity. I know you didn't, or perhaps you didn't, maybe you caught it online, but we had a presentation here on a potential special permit use for 6 semi-detached stacked dwellings in Kelly Heights subdivision phase 3. I had opened the floor for potential questions or public presentations, and I just wanted to extend that invitation to you should you want to ask any questions on the development.
No, but thank you.
Okay, all right. So I'll just inform everybody of next steps. Written comments will be received until 12 p.m. on Wednesday, March the 12th, by email to skennedy, skennedy, @townofstratford.ca, or hand-delivered to the Town Center Planning Department. 2, Planning Board will meet for discussion and make a recommendation to Council on the March 31st, 2025, and Town Council shall meet and discuss the potential resolution on Wednesday, April the 9th, 2025, for a decision. I will now adjourn these proceedings, and I want to thank everybody for their attendance here tonight. Democracy does not work without active participation from citizens, so I certainly appreciate everybody's attendance and diligence in making it out. Thank you. Meeting so adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.